Tonight, I have 3 stories about the places that exist between worlds. A missing husband returns home exactly as he looked 6 months earlier, but his wife knows he cannot be the same man. A 13-year-old scientist steps outside the laws of matter and discovers a language understood by everything in existence, including things that should never have heard it. And a desperate son turns his mother's home into a fortress designed to keep death from finding her. Some doors are made of wood and metal. Others are made from grief, curiosity, or the refusal to let go. The danger begins when something opens one of those doors from the other side. Turn off the lights, check the space behind you. And if someone you buried comes home, make sure they still carry the scars you remember. This is Night Evidence. Story 1. My dead husband came home. My husband disappeared 6 months ago. Rick left for work one morning and never returned. There was no dramatic final conversation. No argument. No packed suitcase. He kissed my cheek, took his keys from the bowl near the door, and complained that he was already late. Then he walked out of our house and vanished. Things like that were not supposed to happen in our neighborhood. We lived in the kind of suburb people described with phrases like quiet, friendly, and safe. White fences, cut lawns, children riding bicycles after school, neighbors who knew when your relatives visited and what you had ordered for dinner. Rick's disappearance damaged that illusion. Police searched his office, his car routes, local woodland, and the canal. The neighborhood watch organized volunteers. His photograph appeared on lampposts, supermarket windows, and the notice board outside the church. Our families moved between hope and grief until neither emotion felt real. No evidence was ever found. Eventually, the posters faded. New advertisements covered them. Calls from the detective became less frequent. Search parties stopped meeting. I accepted that Rick was not coming home. Then, 1 week ago, he did. I was in the back garden watering petunias when the gate creaked open. I turned, and there he was. He looked exactly as he had on the morning he disappeared. The same windswept blonde hair, the same blue eyes, the same slight curl at one corner of his mouth. His clothes were clean. His shoes were not worn. There was no beard, no weight loss, and no sign that 6 months had passed for him at all. The watering can slipped from my hand. "Rick?" He smiled. "I'm home." I asked where he had been. He said he did not know. According to him, he could remember leaving for work. The next memory was standing outside our garden gate with no idea how he had arrived. Police took him to the hospital. Doctors examined him. His fingerprints matched. Dental records matched. Every test said the man was my husband. Our families were overwhelmed with joy. His mother cried so hard she could not speak. Friends crowded into our living room. Neighbors brought food and flowers. Everyone called it a miracle. But I did not believe in it. The first mistake was sugar. The morning after he returned, I made tea. When I handed him the cup, he thanked me, picked up a sugar cube, and dropped it into the drink. Rick hated sugar in tea. He said it destroyed the flavor. If I accidentally sweetened his cup, he would complain after a single sip. The man at our table stirred the sugar and drank with a pleased expression. It was a small detail. A person missing for 6 months might return with different tastes. Trauma can change habits. That is what I told myself. Then there was golf. Rick had followed the sport obsessively. Once, he had nearly missed our anniversary dinner because a championship ran late. While he was visiting his mother, I recorded a tournament featuring his favorite golfer. When he came home, I told him. "Thank you," he said. Then he asked whether I wanted to go out for dinner. he never watched the recording. That night, I woke at 2 in the morning. His face was inches from mine. He was lying on his side, eyes open, studying me with an expression so empty that I felt like an object beneath a microscope. I laughed nervously. "What are you doing?" He did not answer. For nearly 30 seconds, he simply watched. Then a smile appeared, as if he had remembered that a husband should smile at his wife. "Sorry, honey. Sometimes I just can't believe this is real." He rolled over and fell asleep. I stayed awake until morning. Yesterday, the neighborhood held a street party to celebrate his return. Rick moved through the crowd with one arm around my waist. He remembered names and asked the correct questions about people's work and families. Yet every interaction felt rehearsed, like an actor following notes. Our neighbor Sally brought her toddler, Jackson. The boy wanted to play peekaboo. Rick crouched and played with him, smiling warmly. My husband never liked children. That was why we had none. He especially avoided Jackson. Before Rick disappeared, I had begun to understand why. The boy had Rick's blue eyes, the same curl to his lips. Even his expression when concentrating was unmistakably familiar. I suspected Sally and my husband had been sleeping together for years. This morning, Sally arrived at our door with brownies. It was an excuse to see Rick. After she left, I called her a nosy busybody. Rick laughed, kissed my head, and agreed. That was when I became certain. The real Rick always defended Sally. If I criticized her, he became furious. He insisted that I was jealous and cruel. The man in my kitchen showed no affection for her at all. There are reasonable explanations for personality changes, head injuries, trauma, memory loss. But there is one detail no doctor can explain. The man who returned has no scar on his forehead. The real Rick had a scar shaped like the edge of a golf club. I know, because I gave it to him. 6 months ago, I followed him to Sally's house. I confronted him after he came home. He laughed at me. He told me the affair had lasted for years and that Jackson was probably his son. The golf club was leaning beside the back door. I did not plan what happened next. I buried Rick beneath the petunias before sunrise. That is why I know my husband never went missing. And that is why the man sleeping beside me cannot possibly be him. Last night, I went into the garden with a shovel. I needed to know whether the body was still there. Before I reached the flower bed, someone spoke behind me. Looking for something. The returned man stood at the back door. He was smiling. I told him I could not sleep. He walked barefoot across the grass. Neither can he, the man said. Then something knocked 3 times from beneath the petunias. In the first story, someone crossed the boundary between death and life, wearing a familiar face. The next story is about a girl who crossed a much stranger boundary and returned with a language that did not belong in a human mouth. Story 2. The language between worlds. My younger sister Nirali was 13 when she stopped obeying the laws of matter. That sentence sounds exaggerated, but I do not know how else to describe it. Our family was full of intelligent people. My father was a neurologist. My mother worked in aerospace engineering. Our eldest sister exhibited paintings before she was old enough to drive. I later built a career in high-energy density physics. Nirali made all of us feel ordinary. In the summer of 2003, she constructed a device from equipment she was forbidden to use at home. I never fully understood it. Her explanation involved atomic frequencies, temporal displacement, and the idea that physical objects might occupy different layers of the same location without interacting. She called the space between those layers the between. The first demonstration happened in my bedroom. I was reading at my computer when her voice spoke behind me. "They're wrong, you know." I turned. The room was empty. I assumed she had hidden speakers. She had built tricks like that before. Then something tapped my shoulder. I jumped from the chair. Nirali laughed from directly in front of me, although I could see nothing there. "No speakers," she said. "Just me." "Where are you?" "Here, almost." She told me the device had shifted the frequency at which her body interacted with matter. She still occupied my room, but light passed through her. Walls did not stop her. Gravity affected her only when she allowed it to. I accused her of lying. She walked through my closed bedroom door. A moment later, she returned through the wall. I could not see or touch her, but I could hear every word. That was the second impossible part. Nirali was not speaking English. She insisted that her mouth formed unfamiliar sounds, yet my mind received their meaning as clearly as ordinary speech. "Maybe it's automatic translation," I said. "Not translation, understanding." She placed a book on my desk. I did not see her hand, only the book moving through the air. "Say the word book." She made a sound that seemed to begin like cracking ice and end like a breath drawn underwater. But what I heard was book. We tested objects, numbers, colors, emotions, and abstract ideas. Each time, I sensed that the sound did not match the meaning, but meaning always overwhelmed the physical noise before I could identify individual syllables. Nirali believed she had discovered a universal language. It was not a collection of words. It was intention, given sound. Anything capable of thought would understand it. We began meeting at night to document what she experienced. She would activate the device, disappear, and enter my bedroom through the wall. I asked questions while she described the between. At first, it sounded beautiful. Colors were not limited to the present. When she focused on blue, she experienced every blue thing that had existed in that location, or might exist there in the future. Time was not a line. It was weather. She saw future cities made from glass and bone. She stood inside structures that would not be built for 1,000 years. Once, she claimed to have looked through a captured black hole and seen universes repeating like mirrors. I should have stopped the experiments. Instead, I was fascinated. The first warning came while we were lying on my bedroom floor, naming objects. Nirali suddenly stopped speaking. The room changed. I could not see anything, but dread moved inward from the walls. It felt like a predator searching a dark room, guided only by sound. "Nirali?" "Quiet." Her whisper was barely audible. For 2 hours, neither of us moved. I stared at the red numbers on my clock until fear exhausted me, and I fell asleep. Nirali woke me sometime after 2. "It's gone." "What is?" She remained silent so long that I wondered whether she had left. Then she whispered, "The shadow behind the walls." Her presence vanished. Several minutes later, she knocked on my bedroom door in her physical body. She came inside, climbed beneath the blanket, and pressed her back against me. She was shaking. It took a week before she used the device again. When she entered my room through the wall, her first words were, "I think the language attracts it." "What is it?" "Something old, maybe older than time. It doesn't speak, but it listens. And it understands." She said the shadow was not alone. The between contained enormous presences that existed across several shapes and moments at once. Most could not see her because she was never entirely where they were. But they could hear the language. Some began following her. They appeared in reflections that did not belong to the room. They waited in the past after noticing her in the future. They touched reality the way a stone touches water while skipping across a lake, never entering completely. Even that small contact was enough to hurt her. "They're hungry," she told me, "but not for anything I understand." I demanded that she stop. She refused. I believed curiosity had become an addiction. I did not learn the real reason until a week later. Nirali entered my room shortly after midnight. Her voice sounded frightened. "The shadow has been in my room every night. It follows me when I'm physical now." "Then destroy the device." "I can't." "What could possibly be worth this?" She began to cry. "I can't speak English anymore." At first, I thought she meant she could not remember certain words. She explained that every time she opened her mouth in the physical world, the language of the between came out instead. To everyone else, it sounded like wet scraping, broken breaths, and noises no human throat should produce. Only while shifted could she communicate normally with me, because the universal language placed meaning directly into my mind. "When I'm physical, they can still hear me," she said. "But then I'm visible. You are visible. Mom and Dad are visible. None of us are safe when I speak out there." She had continued entering the between because it was the only place where she could talk to me. "You have to come back," I told her. "We will find another way." "I don't want to lose you. You still have me." "Not out there. Not like this." I promised we would fix it, although both of us knew I had no idea how. Her presence faded. A few minutes later came a quiet knock. Nirali stood in the hallway, visible and shaking. Silent sobs moved through her body. I pulled her into my room, and we cried together on the floor until exhaustion forced us to sleep. In the morning, she watched me wake. "Can you speak?" I asked. She shook her head. Then she glanced toward the hallway. Our parents were awake. If they saw her unable to talk, there would be questions. If she produced the other language, whatever listened from behind the walls might hear. Nirali moved closer. Her mouth almost touched my ear. Then she spoke. I cannot reproduce the sound. It was her voice dragged across hot metal and buried beneath a deep ocean. Each fragment felt poisonous. My mind understood the sentence while every instinct rejected the noise carrying it. The language was never meant for a human mouth. She said, "Do not turn around." I became still. The bedroom wall behind me began to breathe. Paint stretched outward, then sank inward as if something enormous were pressing its face against the other side. Nirali continued speaking. The sounds cut through the room. The shadow understood her. The wall split from ceiling to floor. Behind it was not insulation or timber. There was a darkness filled with distant stars and shapes moving between them. Something unfolded inside that darkness. Nirali pushed me away. Then she activated the device. Her body vanished. The opening in the wall closed after her. That was the last time I saw my sister. My parents told everyone she had run away. Police found no evidence. Her machine was gone. The bedroom wall was solid and undamaged. But Nirali did not disappear completely. For the next several years, I occasionally heard her voice inside walls, radios, and the space between telephone signals. She never spoke English. I always understood her. At first, she said she was still searching for a way home. Then, the messages became shorter. The final one came in 2003, 3 months after she vanished. It said, "I know why it was listening." Then another voice completed the sentence. It wanted to learn how to speak to you. My sister has not said another word since. But sometimes, late at night, something behind my bedroom wall practices saying my name. The first two stories were about impossible returns and doors opened by human hands. The final story begins with a son who knows exactly what is coming toward his mother's house. He calls it death, and he believes he can keep it outside. Story 3. I tried to hide my mother from death. Did you know early astronomers thought there were oceans on the moon? I asked. My mother shifted in her hospital bed, disturbing the web of tubes around her. The moon seems like the perfect place for an ocean. They were wrong. Those dark areas are plains, but astronomers called the false seas Maria. Mom smiled. How kind of them to name the moon's oceans after me. They didn't actually find oceans. Maybe they didn't look hard enough. She laughed. My mother had a laugh that could light a candle. Cancer had taken her strength, her hair, and almost all of her time. It could not take that sound. We had moved in and out of the same hospital room for 18 months. The doctors used clean, ordinary words to describe something hungry, malignant, inoperable, metastasized, terminal. When Dr. Bradshaw asked to speak with me in the hallway, I knew what he would say. The cancer was spreading aggressively. Treatment had stopped working. My mother had days, perhaps less. He suggested hospice. I looked through the doorway at her sleeping body. I want to take her home. My mother lived in a small house 10 miles outside town. There were no close neighbors, only woods, and a narrow creek winding through the property. I brought her home on a warm, windy afternoon in March. That night, I opened the box from the attic. It had belonged to my grandmother. Family stories described her as a witch, a fraud, or both. The box contained carved idols, iron charms, candles, and a small red book filled with instructions. One section explained how to confuse death. Running water formed the first barrier. The creek protected the southern edge of the property. Salt came next. I poured it across doors, windows, and the boundary surrounding the house. Wind scattered it, so I replaced the lines several times each day. The book included symbols meant to misdirect anything following a dying person. I carved them into walls, floorboards, trees, and the underside of the house. I knew how irrational it was. For all I knew, the marks were meaningless. But medicine had finished trying, and my mother grew weaker every hour. Desperation makes belief easy. I arranged the charms around the property according to the compass. The ugliest figures faced north, south, east, and west. Each had too many eyes or a mouth carved in an expression of grief. The final protection was a candle. It was the length of my finger and the dirty white color of stained paper. The smell reminded me of decay trapped in summer heat. I placed it on the dining room table and lit it. The flame burned reddish-brown. It produced no heat. The closer I moved my hand, the colder my skin became. According to the Red Book, as long as the candle remained lit, death could not cross the final threshold. The following morning, the house began to change. Doors I had closed stood open. Food spoiled within hours. The television switched itself on and off. Every clock stopped at 3:03 in the morning. Shadows remained in corners regardless of the light. If I watched them, they did not move. When I blinked, they appeared closer. The candle never became shorter. Wax melted down its sides, yet every morning it looked untouched. My mother remained alive. Days passed. The disturbances grew worse. Something scratched inside the walls. It did not sound like mice, It sounded like a large dog begging to enter. At night, fingers tapped the windows. Voices whispered from empty rooms. They used the voices of relatives who had died years earlier. The entire house filled with the candle's smell. I covered the mirrors after shapes began watching me from behind my reflection. My mother grew confused. Sometimes she forgot my name. Sometimes she called me by my father's name. Dad had died when I was 7. I remembered his green eyes, bright red hair, and arms I believed could hold the entire world. Mother said I looked like him. Even as the house came under siege, she remained alive. That was all that mattered. One night, she remembered the time I had run away as a child. I had left a note saying I was joining the circus, then became lost in the forest without a jacket. "That hour you were missing was the most frightened I have ever been," she said. "I thought we might never find you." After she found me, we stayed awake beneath the stars. She taught me to recognize the North Star so I could always find my way home. "I've been thinking about dying," she said. I interrupted. "You are not going anywhere." She squeezed my hand. "I am frightened, but I am not lost. I had a beautiful life. I am glad I got to be your mother." I refused to accept it. For 33 days, the candle burned. The house became nearly unlivable. Laughter and screams moved from room to room. Something struck the bathroom door hard enough to bend the hinges. Faces appeared between trees outside. Hot breath touched the back of my neck. I stopped leaving the property. My world shrank to my mother's bedroom and the path to the dining room where the candle waited. On the 33rd morning, I woke from a nightmare. My mother's bed was empty. She had been unable to walk for a week. Then I noticed something else. The smell was gone. I ran into the hallway. The dining room doors stood open. Mother was beside the table, swaying on legs too thin to support her. Her hands hovered above the candle. The flame was out. "Why did you do that?" She looked at me with clear eyes. "Because something was trying to get in, Brian, and something else was trapped here with us." The house became silent. Then every window shattered inward. Dark shapes entered from all directions. They moved through walls, dragged themselves across ceilings, and unfolded from corners too small to contain them. I reached for my mother. The floor disappeared. I fell into a night filled with stars. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on an empty road. Forest surrounded both sides. Above me, the sky was deeper than any sky on Earth. The stars seemed close enough to touch. Something stood in the road ahead. Its body was made from darkness, but stars burned inside it. It had no fixed face. Each time I tried to focus, I saw a different shape. "Are you Death?" I asked. "That is one name." I demanded to know what had been attacking the house. "Scavengers," it said. "Your candle denied the road its traveler. The longer you held her, the more things gathered around the opening." I had not protected my mother. I had trapped her beside a door and attracted everything hungry enough to wait outside. "Can they hurt her here?" The stars inside the figure brightened. "Your mother will not walk her road alone. None of you do. I walk with you to the end. Please let me see her. I need to say goodbye." The figure considered me. "You are persistent." Then it vanished. I stood alone on the road. "Brian?" My mother was behind me. She looked younger and healthier than she had in years. The frailty was gone. She appeared exactly as I remembered her on the night she found me lost in the woods. "Isn't this a beautiful dream?" she asked, looking at the sky. "Yes." I struggled to keep my voice steady. I love you, Mom. She touched my cheek. I love you too. Don't cry. I will wake up soon. Of course, I'll see you then. She looked down the road. Where do you think it goes? I don't know. Promise you will be careful. She won't walk alone, said a voice behind us. I turned, expecting the star-filled figure. Instead, a man stood on the road. He had green eyes and bright red hair. He looked like me, or rather, I looked like him. My father took my mother's hand. Take care of her, I said. There are things out there, things I let near her. He placed a hand on my shoulder. She will be safe. If the devil himself waits on the road ahead, he will move, or he will be moved. I believed him. There were a million questions I wanted to ask, and a million ways to say goodbye. But I realized I had already delayed my mother long enough. I love you both. They began walking. My mother looked back once and smiled. Her laugh moved through the forest like a candle being lit. Then I woke at the dining room table. The unlit candle stood in front of me. The house was silent. No scratching, no shadows, no footsteps behind the walls. My mother was gone. In the months since, I have repaired the house and removed the symbols. At night, I walk through the forest and look for the North Star. I think about the road my parents are traveling and wonder whether they have reached its end. When the moon is full, I remember our conversation in the hospital. Early astronomers looked at the dark plains above and imagined oceans. They called those false seas Maria. Maybe they simply did not look hard enough. I like to believe my parents visited the moon during their journey and found the oceans we never could. And that somewhere up there, the moon now has at least one Maria, the one I love most. 3 stories from the space between worlds: a dead man wearing the face of a husband, a language capable of calling something through a wall, and a road that waits patiently for every one of us. Human beings spend their lives drawing borders between matter and emptiness, between life and death, between the people we love and the possibility of losing them. Most of those borders exist for a reason. Thank you for listening to Night Evidence. If you have a story you would like us to consider, contact the show at nightevidence.show@gmail.com. Until next time, stay alert. And if you find a door between worlds, do not assume the only thing crossing it will be you.